I saw Noah bend one of those nails. I thought to myself, man, if he got near me, I'd just shoot him. And he said, well, he can shoot you too. Today it's difficult but appropriate to read this quote by General George Patton. It's foolish and wrong to mourn the men who died, but rather we should thank God that such men live. And I thank God that I had the privilege of knowing Noah Jeffries. He filled a room with electricity. He never met a stranger. He was the young man we wish all men would emulate. Noah learned early on what it takes most people an entire lifetime to discover. And that's this. The people you surround yourself with influence who you become. And it starts with a great mom and dad and grandparents. Noah loved his job at Tenorock as the shooting clays manager. He enjoyed being around the veterans and the law enforcement officers. He called them the old dudes. His old dudes. And on any given day, you could find Noah hanging out with his old dudes. Bud told me that when Noah was 13 years old, he may have been the only 13-year-old in the entire nation whose best buddy was a 70-year-old veteran. Noah knew, as did Socrates, that the only true wisdom is knowing that you know nothing. So he sought out those with life experiences to learn about life. Noah exposed himself to extraordinary adults until the extraordinary seemed ordinary. And then Noah followed that example. Noah lived what he learned from people that he believed were exemplary. Noah's philosophy was simply, why would I ask someone my age to do something instead of asking someone who's been around a long time and already knows what to do? We can all learn from Noah's wisdom. Heather, you said your son was a throwback kind of person, like someone who came from a different time. And I suggested that I thought of him as an old soul in a young man's body. He was wise beyond his years at just a very young man. His friend Kevin Widener is a retired captain with the sheriff's office. He described Noah as the last of a dying breed, a true Southern gentleman. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. We became attached to him at 14 years old. And he could carry on a conversation with an adult as easy as he could, or maybe easier than a 14-year-old. It was always yes, sir, and yes, ma'am with Noah. Respect was given by him to those he was around, period. That was who he was. And before I get too long, I want to share another milestone in Noah's life, where it intersected with Sergeant Tom Dabrowski. The very first time Tom had met Noah was shortly after Noah had started dating his daughter, Dana. And true to a dad mode of operation, Tom gave Noah the 50-question interrogation. And I'm sure being a sheriff's office sergeant had something to do with his technique and the fact that Tom worked for a long time in investigations. He knew how to interrogate people. During the questioning, Tom, with much success, found out Noah knew Captain Kevin Widener. So Tom did what any good father would do. He called up his buddy Kevin. And the phone call went something like this. Hey, Captain, what can you tell me about this kid named Noah Jeffries? Kevin said, oh no, what did he do? To which there was a long, silent pause on the phone before Tom said, well, he's dating my daughter. Kevin, very glad that Noah wasn't in trouble and would have been totally shocked if he was, because he never was, exclaimed, that's absolutely great. He's the kind of young man you want your daughter to date. Now, I know Noah through the clay shoots. In 2014, he was part of my friend Lynn Oakley's team, and they placed third that year. Noah picked up marksmanship kind of late in life. He was 14 before he was winning all kinds of recognitions. But quickly he was becoming proficient. As you know, it wasn't very long before he was an instructor at Tenorock before he managed. Kevin Widener said Noah could tape an aspirin to the inside of a washer, throw it in the air, and shoot the aspirin with a .22. And he said he could do that with a quarter, but he'd keep it. There was another time Noah's old dudes needed a fourth for a clay shoot. Now you understand, we're not just shooting clays. These people are competitive. They want to win. So they asked Noah. Well, Noah didn't have those fancy over and under shotguns or semi-automatics, those guns they pay $10 and $15 and $20 and $25,000 for. He had a pump shotgun. And he showed up with that, and he outshot all those old experts with their expensive guns. They were some kind of upset that this very young guy with an old pump shotgun whooped them all, as we say in Polk County. Noah was not only a master class shooter, he was a master class person. Sadly today, we can say that the world has indeed lost a great, great young man. Heather, Bud, Noah loved you, and you know that, to the ends of the earth. He loved all of his family dearly. But Noah's greatest compliment of you was his admiration to the point of emulation. He gleaned the good Southern etiquette from his peers, his family, his grandparents, and his parents. Noah understood the best lessons are gained just from taking time to learn from those that had gone before. He knew what it was like to stand on the shoulders of giants, but Noah sought out those giants on whose shoulders to stand. Noah may have only spent 21 short years with us here on earth, but he accomplished so much more. In fact, he accomplished more than some men who lived to be 100 years old could ever hope to accomplish. The character Maximus from the movie Gladiator said this: "What we do in life echoes throughout all eternity." Noah Jeffries will echo in our hearts and our souls forever. He left this world better than he found it. But selfishly, I know there are thousands of people who Noah could have and definitely would have helped if God had given him more time here on earth. But we can be comforted knowing that even in death, Noah's last greatest contribution was that he saved 6 lives because his family generously shared Noah's strong body with people who were in desperate need of their life being saved. And as I close, I think about how Noah was preparing to put himself through the next police academy. He wanted to be a deputy. And I so wanted and looked forward to the day that I could give him the oath of office to be a deputy sheriff for me. Well, today, for the first time in the history of the sheriff's office, I'm going to swear Noah in as a deputy sheriff. And it goes like this: You, William Noah Jeffries, do you solemnly swear that you will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and the government of the United States and the state of Florida? That you're duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state? And that you will well and faithfully perform the duties of deputy sheriff throughout all eternity? Will you perform these duties on which you're now about to enter posthumously? So help you God. And the response I heard was, absolutely. So I leave this message with you today because I believe Noah wants you to know and practice what Jesus taught us in Galatians chapter 6, verses 9 and 10, as we show you his oath of office. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have the opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers. Bud, Heather, family, that last message he gave us was exactly what we would expect of them. May God continue to bless you forever.